Right,
Right,
welcome.
so what's up, Mr. Gomez? What's up?
What's up, Valencia? What's up, Gomez?
What's up?
What's up, Duque? What's up?
What's up? So, welcome everybody to the Donny podcast. We have some special guests invited for today, Mr. Santiago Ortiz, Alejandro Valencia, and Duque Acosta. So, we're here to talk mainly a special phenomena that is currently happening in the world and is climate change. So, what's your take on that? Let's say, Mr. Ortiz, can you explain further what is climate change?
Are you hearing me well? Do you see me well? Perfect.
Yes, we're hearing you well.
Okay.
Yes, that's
Uh,
perfectly.
Nothing. Well, we should start talking about what is it? No. So, climate change basically is the phenomena of extreme alteration of temperatures around the world. No. So, what happened? So, in the history of the world, we have seen how in some part like Africa or Colombia, you could say, or well, almost in every country, there has been a change, a dramatic change in how the temperature works, and it is commonly misunderstood as like a change, like a repentant change of weather in a country or a city, like it's raining today and tomorrow it's sunny. No, that isn't climate change. Climate change is caused by the greenhouse gases and the effect on the atmosphere of the earth, and it causes to have an extreme alternation of weather, and it causes to it causes severe damage in what the ecosystem that is being, like the weather it's being changed, affects this ecosystem, like to the resources, the animals, and everything on it. So yeah.
Okay. All right. To explain forward what Santiago was saying, the greenhouse gases are could vary. There are various types of greenhouse gases. We can find carbon dioxide, of course, methane, and chlorofluorocarbons, for example. Those are like the main greenhouse gases, and what like the scientific explanation of this phenomena is that those gases stay in the atmosphere, and although they let the sunlight well go around the atmosphere of the earth, the weather and the temperature that the sun provides towards the earth stays in the atmosphere due to these gases. So that's, let's say that the basic scientific explanation of what the greenhouse gases are and what they cause in the, well, in Earth. So guided with this, I want to introduce a social problem that is basically really setting forward to the explanation that we already did with Santiago, and it's the basic needs in which the ecosystems are changing dramatically through the years. For example, in Africa, we found that there are various droughts and areas where water is really hard to find because of this social, not the social problem, because of this yeah, this phenomena that the world has been facing throughout the years. So this like is one of the main causes that and consequences that we are facing right now. So I don't know if Alejandro Valencia likes to, uh, let's say, prove this point more deeply.
Yeah, as Gomez was saying and Mr. Ortiz was saying, I totally agree with both of you because this problem is going to affect us not only in the present but in the future because every day we're doing more trash, where the climate change is still getting higher and higher. And in some point, we are not going to live in this planet. So we need to take care of it immediately. For example, the plastic, it's destroying the oceans, the forests and everything. So it is very important for the people to know the impact of climate change and what it is doing to our environment. I don't know if Mr. Duque wants to add something.
Well, yes, Valencia, thanks. Thanks for asking. My part, I obviously say also that this is an important point that we have to take care. We have to take care of the environment, the changes that we're living in, and a point that I think that we should talk and get deeply on is the social participation of a lot of leaders that have been will talk and get into the climate change situation. I think what I'm going to say is that the popularity, let's say, of some leaders like as Trump is very important. It's game changing. What this type of people that has such an influence in the world and in the people can change a point of view of a lot of people. So as Trump various times has said that he denies the existence of climate change. This is very dangerous for, well, yeah, for the situation of the world, as Valencia said, the future generations. So yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about these leaders talking about climate change. What do you think, Gomez?
Gomez, do you want
Well,
to?
can I add something very fast?
Yeah,
No.
obviously.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, for example, there are some leaders like Trump, as Mr. Duque said, that they are not helping our community, so we need to stop them. And also Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, is a terrible leader. He doesn't care about the forests in the Amazon, but there is still hope because there are people like Greta Thunberg or many other activists that really want to do a change, and that's a good thing. I think that we can save the planet and we're not too late, but we need to do that change and do that step up as a community.
Gomez, what do you?
Yes, I want
Yes.
to add I want to add a little thing, Gomez, if you let me, if that's
No.
okay for you. No?
No. Say it. Say it. Say it.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is that I think there is a duality in this environment topic of this climate topic that some people, as Trump says, um, the environment can be used to for our own good, like extraction of things, of materials, things that will increment the economy. So I think there is a duality between the economy and the earth, the healthness of the earth, if I may say. So
Yeah,
yeah, Donny.
I would like to add, like, uh, adding to that take that Duque was saying. Well, yeah, it is a duality on how we do things, but there's always a balance. No, you can't explode or like the petrol mines or the fossils, or all the things that causes this these greenhouse effect gases to go to the surface of the earth, and well, in a near future, affect us, our life, our lifestyle, everything. So we have to have a balance between what we take from the earth and uh, what we can take, and yeah, but what do we give? So how do we compensate that thing that we took, or like planting trees, or I don't know, those kind of solutions, or some other takes that we can have, so that it is a little bit more balanced and not only one sided. So yeah,
Totally. I'm with Ortiz. Yeah.
yep, totally.
Right.
Uh,
So I'm very glad that you touched those points in social participation. There are various types of leaders towards this conflict. This basic human life conflict that is the climate change. We have, as you already mentioned, Donald Trump. We have people that believe that climate change does not exist. Well, this is totally unacceptable, but we still have some other groups that are helpless. And what I mean by helpless is that they think that it's a really complicated problem to work on. And it's not like you're going to fix the climate and the weather in the world throughout a day or throughout a month or throughout a year or throughout everything. So basically, what I'm saying is that there are certain groups that believe that this problem cannot be addressed in a very positive way, because we can't like just come with a solution of repairing the Earth climate throughout, like I said, a certain period of time. We need to have some certain objectives and goals first to yeah, basically uh well, yes, to improve the Earth's let's say climate and weather. And there are also some groups that will believe that this problem can be addressed easily with some, let's say, routines and some objectives that can be uh, let's say fixed throughout a period of time. And there are many, like, let's say, steps that we can take to solve these, let's say, this problem. So there are various types of groups with uh, different type of speeches that, let's say, complement all the global aspect of the, well, of the climate change problem. So I don't know if some of you guys, like, let's say, want to take a stand and, let's say, belong to one of those groups. I don't know if you agree with one of the ideas of some of those groups or are totally in disagree. What is your opinion over those speeches?
Anyone want to take I go? Oh, okay, perfect. Well, what I think it's from the scientific point of view, we could stand that partial solution could be the use of solar energy and wind energy, that is, or aeolic energy. That is, well, now it's very common to use it, and it helps a lot on like giving people more resources to have energy from, and not only by the ones that damage the earth and that really the like are really devastating for the earth, you know. Also another solution that that is taken into account is the use of electric cars nowadays. You see a lot of companies such as Tesla,
I
BMW.
want to stop you right there.
Stop.
And I want to emphasize in one of those points that you said in energy, let's say, alternatives, and was, I believe you said, solar and wind energy, right?
Yeah.
What I'm not completely disagreeing with you, but in a way I am. Okay, and I'm going to explain this point. Germany, from the last years, tried to change the types of energy sources in their country and produced more fossil fuels in solar plants. And what happens with that is that scientists are providing short-term solutions and not thinking very clear the, let's say, the impact that is going to generate those alternative energy sources. So let's say you have solar energy, but what happens in night? Like, you don't have the sun, right? How are you gonna provide those energy solar panels that you really need in those industries? And how are you going to depend on wind and, let's say, solar energy throughout, like, let's say, your whole lifetime? Those things you can't control, and those are variables that you can, whether you cannot control weather, and you cannot control, let's say, for example, let's say wind. You cannot control when it's going to be a wind day or when it's not going to be a wind day. You cannot control if it's going to be partially clouded that day or if it's not. So I don't believe that alternative energy sources such as solar and wind energy are the way to go during this time. So I want to know your opinion
Yeah.
over that.
Very quick, I want to emphasize on this. Well, bro, it's like you have a solar panel. It works during the day, and it stores energy for the night. It's not like there's no more light coming from the sun and it does just like stops working. No, that's not how it works. So it's a very good like resource to have from, because first it like it doesn't use any like you could say any resource from the earth directly that will damage any ecosystem or something. You are just taking light from the sun, and it helps, and it can be used for lighting a house. I don't know, the furniture, the yeah, like cooking and everything. So it's like, well, if the people were like more educated towards this new, like, let's say, kind of energies, and this like new kind of lifestyle, if in any means, we will like be taking a great step forward into the next generation being more precisely conscious about what's happening and taking these solutions as part of their daily life. Yeah, so not taking like from taking the light from the sun and use it to your own benefits, like using solar panels, and I don't know, using public transport 3 times a day, not or either, if you can have a electric car, like these things that help the society and help the environment. So yeah, that's what I think.
Um, okay, so I completely agree with you. I think there's also a cultural, let's say a cultural solution towards this problem that needs to be settled. I still do not agree in the alternative energy sources, because I think there is also an alternative and more effective energy source, and this is also a debate that countries have been, let's say, years discussing it, and it's the nuclear energy sources that this can provide. Now, why this is a very, let's say, problematic theme to discuss, it's the risks that nuclear energy can provide towards society. Now, we have examples such as Chernobyl that, let's say, have marked histories in society. So I think nuclear, although nuclear energy is not the way to go as well, it's a short-term solution that could provide, let's say, a settlement, and let's say it would give us a, like it will give us a possible route for further societies, and to, let's say, to create an alternative energy source that it's going to supplant the carbon dioxide and the fossil fuel burning with the greenhouse gases. So I think nuclear energy can be the way to go, but it's also a very problematic scenario to think of, with the potential risks that this energy can cause. And let's say the materials of nuclear energy are also limit in the world. It's not like we are limitless in the nuclear source. So it's a short term, and it needs to be discussed. I don't know what is your take on that. What are your opinions towards it? But it could be a possible solution towards the
Yep.
climate change.
Well, for wrapping up, I think we have extended a little bit too much, but um, well, yeah, I think it's a solution that may help us stand a little longer, but it's not a long-term solution, and we should look for long-term solutions. So um, I think it's very risky, but well, I think it could be on another debate, the this thing of whether solar or nuclear, or, but we do agree in one point, that, and is that there's need to be a change, and a cultural change, and an educational change on the the view about climate change, so that the we can make something happen, and we can give like a longer, you could say, life to the earth. So yeah, um, well, I think it's a wrap up. No, Valencia, what do you think?
Totally agree with Mr. Otto. I think we need to find solutions, not just long term, but immediately, because this is a problem that it is just going to continue expanding and expanding, and in some point, it could explode. So it is not about the solution, but like doing it now and finding the best one, because we don't want
5 o'clock.
sorry, over there, we don't want any people to interfere in our future, and we as young people we need to step up and do the change. So I think that's it for me. Thank you all.
What is your take, Gomez, for doing a wrap up for like, yeah, ending?
Meeting is being recorded.
So, guided with nationalism and how we said that groups are definitely a factor that we need to look up in the climate change. I want to emphasize with Donald Trump and with his ex-former presidency, guided with one of the most iconic industries in the United States, associated with the state of Pennsylvania, and that it's the city of Pittsburgh. And why the Pittsburgh Steelers are called Steelers is because the biggest industry in that state is steel. Now, how are the factories going to replace the source of, well, yes, burning steel? And, well, we know, it's not a secret that those factories produce a very high fossil fuel burning and eventually a high rate of greenhouse production in the world. So how are we going to replace that iconic industry that so much people depend on? And it's, let's say, a iconic factor, and yes, it's basically one of the main symbols that represent that state with those industries, and it's also one of the most, let's say, employed factors that the population has in that state. So it's not, it's a nationalist problem guided with that, but it's also an employment problem, and it's also an economic problem. How are we going to replace that? Because we cannot replace it with solar panels trying to burn steel, right? And we will not replace it with wind. We can only replace it with nuclear energy. But that nuclear energy, it's very risky to protect, because we don't know the potential risk that the employees can face in that situation. So this is a nationalist problem, of course, with Trump wanting to, let's say, uh, firmly maintain those such an iconic industry, and such, it's basically a symbol towards the state of Pennsylvania, right? The steel, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the NFL team. So it's such a symbolic industry and such a symbolic employment alternative for the United States that it also plays an important role in nationalism. Now, how is it affecting climate change? Is affecting in a lot of ways, and how it can be replaced? Well, there has been a debate in the United Nations between the countries that are, let's say, already settled and they have already an economic growth, and the countries that are in the way towards the economic growth. These countries that are already, let's say, sustainable in an economic way blame the climate change phenomena towards those countries that are being in a process of economic growth. And it's not a, let's say, a hidden factor that China is one of those countries that are in the process of being one of the most richest countries and economic sustainable countries in the world, as they are well they are one of the richest countries in the world right now. But those countries such as USA and the countries that form the European Union are blaming China, let's say, for those fossil fuel burning and those greenhouse gases emissions. That it's not a lie that China produces 27% of the greenhouse emission in the world, and that's a very big data to handle. And it's also guided with the population that China has, 1.4 billion people. Also, will affect the let's say the climate change footprint in the world. So this is a debate that has been already established in a lot of occasions in the United States. I'm sorry, in the United Nations. And one of the arguments that those countries present, and I already explained them to you, and in the defense of China, they say that the burning of fossil fuels in those countries that are being developed is due to their survival purposes. Let's say agricultural, food, and those basic needs that world societies need to have, right? And the fossil fuel burning and the greenhouse footprints that the other, let's say the other developed countries make, China agrees that those are lifestyle footprints, because climate change also depends on the persons that are living in the world. Uh, for every person, you need to have some luxuries, such as an iPhone, such as, well, you need to eat, you need to have a place to live in, you need to have a car. So uh, those, let's say China says that those footprints are being affected by luxuries that the, let's say, the developed countries are giving to their civilians. So it's a difficult term to analyze when we put it that way, because China has as I said, 1.4 billion people in the world, and that's a very like great data set, and it's very complicated yeah data set to handle in terms of the ecosystemic footprint that China is living with its civilians, but it's also a necessary need. So as one of the, I'm gonna present this author to you. This author name is Jordan Peterson, and what he states is that an alternative solution to this problem, to this, let's say, demographic problem in terms of population, it's the education that people need to have in terms of your footprint, and the education that we need to have in terms of emphasizing the, let's say, the medical sources of anti-conception, and also those terms of like giving birth and everything, because it's not let's say also a hidden factor that the world is growing very fast. It's growing exponentially with its population, and it's going to, let's say, there are studies that they say that it's going to be 40% more that we have, let's say, in 2100, something like that. So people need to have an education on your footprint and on your, let's say, on your birth controls. So in order to, let's say, regulate the footprints and regulate how the those greenhouse emissions can be handled in a demographic way, and therefore the industries such as the basic survival industries and the iconic industries such as the steel industry in Pennsylvania in the United States can can not be affected and cannot be changed. And the people are really important in that process, where if you are educated in that sense, those industries won't have the necessity to change and to have alternative solutions, because you will have the education to not, let's say, spend a lot of luxuries in, let's say, for your phone or your car and everything that Ortiz was saying uh, minutes ago. So that's a solution to that problem, and it's guided, I think, with a nationalist problem in terms of the leadership that Trump um, gives to the people of the United States as his legacy, and also is connected with the social participation problem. Thank you all.
Yes, that's it. Thanks for the invitation, Igor.
All right.
You're welcome. See
Ah,
y'all.
and this
See
was
you. See you.
sponsored by JBL. this whole podcast. So thank you, JBL.
See you later, alligator.
See you later.